And we are having this special edition of our conversations of every Tuesday from Latino Victory. I am Ade Ferro, Director of Partnerships and also Executive Director of the Venezuelan American Caucus. And today is a very special day and for all the wrong reasons. Today in the Senate, they have been already for more than 24 hours um, going back and forth with this uh, ugly, cruel, inhumane, nonsensical or project called One Big Beautiful Bill that I will call Big Beautiful BS. And I'm not going to say the expression for obvious reasons. But here we are, and my guest today is a very, very special guest. Is Joe Garcia, Mr. Jose Antonio Garcia Jr., Joe Garcia, Congressman Joe Garcia. He is an American attorney and a former congressman of the United States. And I think it is important also to let you know that he is a Cuban descendant, Cuban American, someone that knows a lot about everything that is happening in this country, not only for the Latino community, for the Florida community, but also for the American people and for the people in need from America. So, having said that, I think it is time to just enter the topic. I'm gonna be moving my head because I'm checking the updates on everything that is happening in the Senate right now, just in case something happened while we are talking. And I think, first of all, I would like you to introduce yourself, Joe, to say a little bit of what you are doing right now and how we got here, Joe.
Bueno, Ala, thank you for having me. Look, I think this is obviously a failure of the complete political system, and as much as well, this is the fault of the Republicans, it also has to do with our fecklessness in governance. The very fact that we as Democrats were unable to make an argument to the country, and were quite literally uh, ineffective in our running of the government. And the reality is explaining the running of our government, because in many respects, the economy was doing well, joblessness was down, but of course we weren't helping the people we're supposed to help, which is working class Americans. And so they decided, again, for the second time in less than 5 years, to vote no. And they've done that, and they've voted no. And of course, like all authoritarian governments, you need an enemy. And since the United States has no credible enemies abroad, well, the enemy was within. And the enemies in this case were Hispanics. And that's why right now today, the president should be coming into South Florida to inaugurate a concentration camp in the middle of the Everglades. And Ala, you stop me when you want me not to
Yeah,
talk.
no, he's here right now. He's actually having a photo op in front of the cages where the immigrants are
Yeah.
gonna be
Yeah,
detained
and
and trapped.
this is a concentration camp, but I need you to understand this is not alligator Alcatraz. Alcatraz was a place where criminals, black, white, Chinese, Asian, Indian, were all in there because they were criminals. They were serious criminals. This is a concentration camp. This is alligator Auschwitz. These are only Hispanics, none of which have committed any real crime, and they're being housed in the most expensive jail in America right now, at a cost of over $300 per prisoner per day. Easily, we could have put these people at the Airport Hilton and all the other hotels we have in Miami, which are empty because tourism is down in the United States. And it would have saved us money. This place has no running water, has no electricity, has no sanitation. We've imported all of those. And let me be clear, that was built here in South Florida to purposely humiliate the Hispanic community. right? Because
which is more than 70%.
correct, and but more importantly, he got the acquiescence of our Hispanic leaders. They're okay with this. The
They're
largest
okay with it.
Hispanic city in the United States, Hialeah, was the first to sign up to the Immigration Cooperation Agreement. The most important Hispanic city by name, Miami, signed up also and provided police assistance. A commission whose majority is also Hispanic. Dade County Commission, which is the city that represents the majority of a community that's over 60% foreign born, signed up to this. The other day, they dragged out Camila Cabello by her hair, and not one commissioner said anything. And all she was asking for, what was the process on the issue that was coming before the city? So
Yeah.
this is precisely that, a concentration camp. And we're celebrating it in our
Well,
country.
yes, and we will go back before we end to the concentration camp here, very close to my house, actually. But I have to tell you, and this is breaking news: Senate passes reconciliation, 51-50. Vance breaks the tie, and the no votes were Collins, Tillis, and Paul. Murkowski again betrayed her people, her constituents, and the country. Actually, so I think we should talk about this because this bill is gonna be studied in the history books, in the political books, and I am pretty sure history is not gonna be soft or lenient on this bill. What just happened? We are talking with of a bill that is gonna kick out around 16 million of Americans from Medicaid. And the worst part, and I think the audience, I don't know if you guys know this, the worst part is that these people, these Republican in Congress, decided to postpone the actual application of these measures as the Medicaid cuts and starting to kick out Americans from it until December of 2026, just after the midterms, because they believe we are all stupid or stupid enough to believe that nothing is happening until the midterm.
Do you have any proof that we're smart? No, I mean, this
Oh,
is,
well, I mean, I had to
Ala,
believe.
you're the one who was on TV saying they betrayed us. They said they weren't going to do it to us. Who were they going to do it to?
No,
Ala,
I
who were they
mean,
going to
I,
do
I,
it to?
I said that
If you
in
say,
some of.
I'm okay because I'm legal, you are as complicit as they are. And the majority of our community pretends to be ignorant, just like the Germans had no idea that the Holocaust was going on. I have never met a South African who was for apartheid. Never. Even though they're white, blue eyed, and blonde, and they were in South Africa, and they say, oh, I was always against apartheid. Apparently, everyone was against apartheid, and it was a functioning system that kept the place. And likewise, not to do it with you, but my Cuban brother. No, they're only going after the criminals.
Yeah, I want to clarify that. I said that answering a question of a journalist that asked me,
No, I understand.
how do
I'm
you
not.
think you're, no, 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 because I don't feel betrayed. I thought about this. I made graphics about
Yeah,
Project
I know you did,
Victory.
but
I
it's
tried
the
to tell
absurdity.
people about this.
But it's
And
the absurdity of people saying they're not talking about me. If they're talking about another human being, by definition, they're talking about you. If it's brown people, if it's Jewish
correct.
people, the distinctions are negligible because until just 6 months ago, we were equal before the law. The Anton Scalia in decisions that said everyone in the United States has the same rights before the law. No, they've wiped that out. Not only have they wiped that out, but now they want to retroactively get rid of citizenship. And by the way, the worst at this are the Cuban Americans because the three congressmen here all agreed to this. Congressman Jimenez went the other day to Chrome and said everything is fine. When we have the testimonies of the wives and of the people that are in there, how horrible it is.
Let me tell to the audience. Cron is a detention center for immigrants here in South Florida that is very has been very known lately because uh, people dying inside of the detention center. People are suffering from
The other day,
starvation.
a man who had been in this country over 60 years, died under the Chrome detention. He was 75 years old. He arrived to the United States at 14. Apparently, he committed some drug related crime in 1984, over 40 years ago. Had no other touch with the law. Was picked up in, I think it's Longboat Key on June 6th. They had him prisoner till then because he was undocumented. Well, no, he had committed a crime, therefore he can't adjust his status, but you can't send him to Cuba because he's been gone to Cuba so long that the migratory agreements with Cuba don't force the Cubans to take him back. So, quite literally, this man gets sick in custody. They take him to a local hospital. He gets treated for a few days. And instead of releasing him to his family, he was never running from the police. He was
Because the
never
doctor,
hiding
the
from
doctor
anyone.
told them, that he was in real danger. His life was in real danger.
They
And
sent
let me
him
tell you,
back to Chrome and he died.
a
And
little detail about that case that is not as important, but it is important because then you know the cruelty. He had a little dog that had been with him for years. And whenever he was detained, he was with his dog. And they got the dog. They left it at the front door of the Humane Society, just drop it like there on the sidewalk or something. And obviously, the poor little thing just tried to follow the car whenever they were leaving. And he was uh um the dog died trying to cross the street. I don't want to be more graphic, but this is what is happening in this country. But in parallel, because we need to talk about everything, and going back again, and related a little bit with immigration too. Part of this bill that just passed right now uh, has cut funds. It's cutting funds for what it's called Section 8 public housing. Let me explain to you guys what it's, or you want to do it, what is Section 8 and what it means for the Cuban immigrant community in Florida, obviously, all over the country, but the actual concentration of people are more that benefits the most from this Section 8 is here in South Florida. And they voted for this. And
yep,
now they're going to suffer because it is already stopping. The program is suspended until further notice because the cuts are so big that it's practically disappearing. More than $40 million of cuts.
right. No,
So
that a huge portion of Miami's rental market is upheld by what is called Section 8, which is a subsidy if you qualify for, which cuts your rent anywhere from 40 to 70%, depending on your status and the property you're in. And obviously the biggest minority group that participates in it in Dade County, because we're the majority, are Cuban Americans, retirees. Because one of the fascinating things is that Cuban Americans as an immigrant group, when they're working, they're among the most wealthy. But because the vast majority of them live in South Florida or in Florida, where there are no labor laws or unions or pensions, when they retire, they become among the poorest in the country. And so a huge portion of this community receives not only Section 8 help, but receives Medicaid and food stamps, the SSI supplemental food stamp program. And so this part of the country is going to be particularly affected, and yet they're voting for it. But again, I think this is tremendously important because even if it's not affecting you, it is
It
because it
is.
will
No, no,
get
no.
to you.
That's what I was going to say. No, I mean, I'm talking about the specific people that is going to be affected.
If you think
Between
rents are high across the country, they're about to get higher across the board. And
and what is
this,
happening, and this is affecting the whole chain because it's affecting the construction. It's affecting immigration deportations is already affecting the construction industry, and
correct.
now it's going to be even more affected. We are talking about around 4 million people that could lose food help, food stamps, and all of those programs. More hunger, especially in poor and rural areas, for sure, because those are the most affected. But as you said, this is something that affects directly specific Americans. But we are all going to suffer one way or another.
Yep.
And then you realize that all of this is happening. All of these cuts are happening. Students, college is going to be less affordable than ever for Americans. Actually, there are cuts on student loan relief. The Pell Grant access is going to be more restricted than ever. And if you don't know what that is, that are the financial help that students receive depending on the uh, uh, um, on the earnings of the family that you have to show your tax refunds. You have to let them access all of your financial information in order to receive these Pell Grants and all of these financial help. So even if we don't think it's going to affect us, it is going to affect us because on top of everything, there are changes on the tax exemptions. And what is happening already is that the lowest 10%, I mean, the people that makes the less money in the country, that 10%, it's for sure. If this goes to Trump's desk to be signed the way it is, they're gonna have to pay at least $1,600 more dollars every year. And the people with the most, the big corporations and the richest people in the country are gonna have at least $12,000
That's exactly right.
of gift, because that's a gift. What else it is? And in order to pay for that, to cover all of those financial holes, everything has to be cut across the board for Americans. Because at this point, and as you said, talking about the poorest or the most vulnerable, we are all affected in any way, in some ways, in one way or another. We are all affected because every single one of these topics, there are 900 pages here, but when you read it, all of these affect all of us. And you went to your picture right now. Your camera is
Yeah,
off.
I'm sorry. I'm trying
Oh
to,
no, no, it's
my
okay. It's
battery
okay.
is dying, so I'm trying to get it
Oh, okay,
hooked in.
okay, okay, okay. So the question for me, the question for you, will be, what can we do? Because beyond everything that already happened, because beyond everything that have already been done, beyond everything else, the question is, what can we do? What can we do as a society? What can we do as a community? What can we do as people who actually care? Because I know I have been on the ground for long time, and I have been on the ground lately with talking with many people, and people is reacting in a good way. People is, well, actually this bill has more than 70% of disapproval among independents, and almost 65%
Now,
among.
that doesn't matter. It's about to go into law. And the reconciliation process will now require the House to take up the differences with the Senate bill. And I'm hoping that some of the Republicans that voted for this are going to vote again. But this is all part of the skepticism that occurs in all these things, right? That this idea, oh, they're both parties are the same. It doesn't matter.
It is not.
And of course, it is the aspirational and racist nature of American politics that allows us to sort of turn a blind eye to what is about to happen. But it's going to happen. I mean, to give you a classic example, yesterday the administration passed this ridiculous presidential directive that they're going to go against the government of Cuba, the communist government of Cuba. There's nothing new in that declaration, but of course they did it to move the attention away from where we are. And this is exactly what is happening. This is a giant distraction campaign, and people look at what's happening at Chrome and they say, "Well, I've got papers." No, all those people there had papers. They were made illegal, right? They had some paper, they had some documentation, they had work permits, all of that, and they're going to continue to do it. Not only will they make you illegal, but they'll make it impossible for you to make a living. And if you look at Maria Elvira's, which is one of the Republican Cuban American collaborationists, bill that she's filed, literally it makes everybody an indentured servant. Because if you're a immigrant, you will have to pay over $10,000 for the permit to be able to work here a year. These are people that make less than, I don't know, 40, $50,000 a year. They will have to pay 10,000 plus they will have to pay more taxes than
Yeah.
regular Americans. So you, in essence, are creating a class of indentured servants, sub Americans, to do the work Americans won't do. I'll go further. Some of the people working at the detention center that they're building, Alligator Auschwitz, are undocumented because they couldn't find documented truck drivers. It is insane. And yet here we are. And we're having a rational conversation about what might happen. And this bill that was passed is an absolutely horrible piece of legislation where quite literally the members of Congress are saying to people your taxes are going to go down, which is a falsity. It's going to go down
It's
for
exactly,
the
yeah.
richest 10%. It is going up for everyone else or staying the same. And for the poorest Americans, it's going up, which is unconscionable. But it is precisely the kind of politics that we voted for, right? They're all ineffective. And so I guess one baddie is as good as another. And so we find ourselves here.
Yeah, but but we need, what can we do? What we do
Well, look,
because we're
I
still
think
here.
we have to resist. I think we have to not cooperate. I think we have to go to our local politicians and threaten them. By the way, Democrat or Republican, only one commissioner on the Miami City of Miami board voted against the agreement. All of the Hialeah commissioners voted in favor of, and the ones from Dade County all voted not to be part of the agreement so that they could blame the mayor for being part of the agreement. And yet, of course, what they're all scared of is to be removed from this governor because the governor passed a law that basically says if you don't cooperate, we can take away your job. We can fire you from being a mayor or a commissioner. And it is we have to demand that they do what they're elected to do, which is to represent us. And that means we have to reach out to them, we have to talk to them, we have to go to demonstrations, we have to stop and slow down this process. Listen, people are fighting in LA. People are not fighting here. I mean, Abba, the other day at that
Well, they're not only showing up in LA, and they are showing up in many cities. And I think it is also fair to say that many people that have never participate
Abba,
in a,
you're
I'm not
putting a
talking about
flower,
Miami. I'm not talking
putting you're
about
putting
Miami.
a birthday candle on a shit
No,
pot.
no, no. I'm not talking about Miami. I'm talking about people that I know
No,
that.
I get it. I get it. But it's listen, you have to. I talked to someone today, a very intelligent, sophisticated, well off person. They're like, well, I didn't know this was happening. That's the same thing the Germans said after World War II. I had no idea that they were doing these things because, of course, this is purposeful ignorance. This is people not wanting to know. It's in the papers, it's in the press, it's in social media, it's everywhere around us. But of course, if your algorithm is some ridiculous thing saying everything is fine, this doesn't apply to you. But of course, it applies to you. It all applies to you. The economy is collapsing. America, the value of the American dollar is down 10% since Donald Trump became president of the United States. Productivity is now estimated to be negative 3% as of next year at this same time. That's insanity. And yet, no one's having any serious conversations about this issue. The president, they are spending all this money on this distraction because it's a distraction. It puts someone below you, right? And it's hurting our tourism. It's hurting our infrastructure. It's hurting our capacity to project soft power. And all this is happening with the acquiescence of a large portion of our community.
I know. But again, and since we are approaching the half an hour of our amazing conversation, tough but necessary. Uh, what should we do as a
You should
community
speak to your
from here? Oh,
neighbors. You should speak to your local elected officials. You should protect your family. You should help those who have no recourse so that they don't become victims of this. We have to call them out. When you see them in public, scream about it so that other people know, right? Do not cooperate because if you cooperate, they'll just go to the next one. And they will continue to go. The more you give, you acquiesce to evil, first off, the more responsible you are. And so it requires each and every one of us to look at ourselves. This is our moment. The same way that we look back at the time of Martin Luther King and the struggle for civil rights and say how brave those people were. And we think ourselves capable of, I would have been that brave. Well, guess what? Your moment is here. Your reckoning has come. If you believe in those things, it requires you to make a sacrifice. Democracy is an active thing. The other day somebody says, well, I think fascism is coming. Once you say it's coming, it's here. When you censor yourself or your children or your family or your friends, it's here. A
when you feel,
75-year-old
when
man
you
is
feel,
dead because of it. And,
when you
and
feel what
over
I
11 have
felt,
died thus far.
I'm gonna confess something really quick. When you feel what I felt last night about my naturalization, my citizenship, my U.S. citizenship by naturalization, after everything that I read on that DOJ memo, fascism is here. We are we are experiencing it right now
Yeah.
because the fact that a person like me, it's afraid of what can happen to me, to my family, to my son, just because I'm raising my voice and I can be identified as whatever, then it's happening. It is happening, people. If you haven't feel that just yet, personally speaking, in any way, uh, eventually you're gonna feel it because it is. This is a process, and sadly, we know. I know that firsthand. I come from Venezuela, and the escalation, the step by step towards the goal. Just let's recap a little bit here. This is only 6 months into the presidency. We have been only 6 months, and they have been doing everything to with the speed of a rocket, and because they know they have all the power to do it, and then I question myself sometimes and I said, okay, we protest, we go out, we raise our voices, we protect ours, our family, our friends, our neighbors. But these laws are going to keep being passed and signed, and it's going to be the law of the land. What can we do moving forward with these laws? Because what happening is hospitals are going to start closing their doors. Nurses and doctors are going to start losing their jobs. People are going to start dying because of this.
No,
Literally dying.
people are already dying. The question is how much more have to die? And that's why each of us has to resolve that we're willing to put up a fight, that we're not going to say yes, that when there is a random stop, you don't cooperate. You don't give them your documents. You follow the Constitution, which gives you a right not to answer questions. That is a protected right of the Constitution. This idea that they're going to take away people's citizenship is insanity. This, if you apply the very laws he's talking about, all but one of his children were conceived by a non-naturalized citizen. They weren't citizens. None of his children, save one, were born from American people. His mother was illegal in the country. I'm sorry, his grandmother, therefore his mother was evil, illegal, therefore he was illegal, Trump. Marco Rubio's father had no documentation. What made Marco Rubio's father legal eventually was the Cuban Adjustment Act. Both the three congressmen here in South Florida, all three of them, their parents were undocumented when they were born. Therefore, they are eligible to have their citizenship removed. And so when you look at the logic of all this, what you have to ask yourself is, how much am I willing to push and push to there? You can't ask people to do what they're not willing to do, but you have to demand of them what they are willing to do. And each of us has to give. And you've got to talk to your neighbors, because the easy thing is to fall into your algorithm, which I'm sure is true for you, Ale, as it is for me, that I get stories about immigration all day long because I'm following it. But a lot of my friends get a lot of sports on their algorithm, or pretty girls or nice dogs or cats playing. But this is happening all around us. It's going to affect the economy. It's going to affect our lives, our quality of life. And the sooner we stand up, the sooner we say no, the better chance we have. And I say chance because I wish I could be more optimistic and say we will beat this. I don't know if we will. I just don't want to be on the wrong side of history. And I am watching my community here be willing participants in what is at best criminal behavior, and well, at worst criminal behavior, but at best a moral lapse, which is far from easy to excuse, because we know what this is about. We know that this is racial. We know that this is to provoke an us versus them. We know that we're trying to find an enemy within, which of course pays taxes, makes the country productive, makes the country stronger. And yet we find it necessary to scapegoat them because of some inferiority complex that our president has, and he's dredged that up in many of those around us. And if you don't engage with that conversation because you're scared of your neighbor, trust me, you're going to pay for it later. You're going to be a victim of it sooner or later. It may be as simple as something like losing your income because you lose a job, but it may be something much more severe, because we're all being forced to make decisions. And so it requires us to find that strength within ourselves to fight this. And not all of us have to be heroes, but we have to be willing to help those that are. We have to be willing to speak out. We have to also be willing to help finance some of these things. You have a few extra dollars, send it to the whatever group you think is doing a good job. Because if we don't put the resistance now, it'll be far worse 6 months from now or a year from now. And I know a lot of people say, well, in the midterms, we'll get them. Are you so sure we're going to have midterms? The White House is putting up anti mob fence around the White House, anti protection from the mob attacking the White House. Why? The White House used to had the ability, you could almost walk in. We have literally, we're literally giving up to the next push. I know that there's another march here in South Florida, a No King style thing. I think happens in the second week of July. People should participate in that.
It's
You
gonna
should
be
be there. You should
national.
bring your
Yeah,
neighbors.
it's gonna
You
be
should
national.
try to be there so that they get a sense. Because believe it or not, the more you press, the more politicians will get scared, and the more that they'll be willing to resist.
That's what
And
I wanted to close with that. And this I know because I read it. There is this theory of the 3.5%. I don't remember her name. I was trying to find it, but I couldn't. She is from Harvard. And she made an investigation around the world in every single uh, uh, situation where the people had to go to the streets and protest uh, in a pacific way, actually. And she found out that if 3.5% of the people regularly go to the streets and protest what is happening in as many cities as possible, and when you make the numbers, 3.5% of Americans is
let's
around
use an
12 million.
example. Let's use an easy example. You and I were at the No Kings March a few weeks ago here in Miami. There wasn't 3.5%. There wasn't 1%. There wasn't half of a percent of the people who live in Miami-Dade County.
But it
If
was more,
1%,
sorry to interrupt you, but it was more than usual.
yes,
It was definitely more than usual.
yes, it was more than usual. But if half of a percent of the people of Dade County would have showed up to that march, the downtown area would have closed. Biscayne Boulevard would have closed because we wouldn't have fit there. It would have caused traffic snarls across the county because it's a major artery, and we would have been felt. And so you're right. If 3.5%
We
participate, but that
we can make
requires
it happen.
each and every one of you to go to your neighbor and say, hey, I'm going to the march. Come with me. I'm going tomorrow. Come with me. I'll drive you. Let's take public transportation because there won't be parking. Let's talk to the kids next door. Let's do a canvas around the neighborhood. Folks, if we don't begin to act quickly, and again, not all of us have the capacity to be heroes. But we all have the capacity. Some of us do not have the wherewithal to do it, and I understand it. Not God doesn't require us to do what is not within our nature, but it requires us to be better than ourselves and to expect people to be better than themselves. And so I ask you to participate in these marches. If you've got extra money, send it to the groups that are helping. Stay in touch with your friends and engage with all those forces of good, because there are many points of light. There are many people who are doing brave and important work. But if you don't engage, don't expect your neighbor to engage. And once it's over, right? It's easier to hold on to democracy when it's alive than resurrect it after it's gone. The veneer of civilization is very thin, and once you scratch it off, it's gone. What they are doing to immigrants in this country is dehumanizing them, making them prey, making them literally be victims of part of society. I don't know if you've seen it, but look it up on the internet. There was these ICE officials getting ready to a raid, and some of the ICE officers said, I don't feel good about doing this. This isn't productive to our country, and their boss is fighting with them. Ask that of all the people around you. Don't quietly let someone say something that's wrong. We should be scared. Every American should be scared because we are all the same. It is, and let me close with this. One of the things that America does better than any other country in the history of the world is make Americans, right? Like, whether you believe the immigration system is broken or good or efficient or not, regardless of how you feel, what America has done better than any other country is make Americans. And yeah, there's a period where it's touch and go. And there have been points of history where we hated Italians and then we hated Asians and then we hated the Irish and then but in the end, all those groups become American. And the idea that getting rid of any one of them is going to make us better is a lie because it never has worked that way. It has been the generation of 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 reframing America through the eyes of its newest citizens that has made America a vibrant, resilient, and inspiring place. It has never been that we look back, but that America always looks forward. And in this moment, what we have to do is look forward and we have to have the courage to step up, fill the gap in the line, and find others to join you in that. Because the majority of us know that this is wrong. And a majority of those who are against us know that what they're doing is wrong. Talk to your pastor at your church, talk to your neighbors, talk to your family members. I know it's hard. The better thing is to stay quiet. And this is what happens in so many societies. I'm sure you saw this in Venezuela, and my parents saw it in Cuba. This idea is if we don't talk about it, it'll go away. Leave the politics to these guys. It'll eventually blow over. And of course, it
No,
never
it's not.
does.
No, it
It
doesn't.
doesn't. And before you know it, you are lost too. So better to engage and better to fight now than to lose uh, what is one of the greatest civilizations that has ever been created, which is our present United States. Yeah, it's in a bad moment, but if we don't step up, it's going to get far worse.
We will step up. I have to believe we can make it because you know what, Joe? I don't want to lose another country.
Exactly right. That's
I don't have
exactly.
where to go. And I
And
love this country. This
absolutely.
country saved my son's life. This country is the greatest country in the world. I am so proud to call myself an American. I mean, and I'm talking about myself, but I don't want to lose this country. It is way too
In the
amazing to
struggle
lose it.
against this, everyone is your ally. You may not agree. Your neighbor may be a rabid Republican. Engage them on a human level. Your neighbor may be a goddamn fascist. Try to engage because everybody has a heart, everybody has a soul. And if we don't engage and try to move people along here, we are going to find ourselves alone and the victims of a brutal bureaucracy designed to disenfranchise most of us. So fight.
Thank you so so much.
No, thank you for having me, Ala.
This has been a conversation that I knew it was going to be good, but no, not this
I wish it was
good.
more positive. Maybe we can talk when it gets a little bit
I
better.
know it was not positive, but it was um something that had to be said in order to get some more positive conversations down the road. And I believe we can make it because I know, as you said, the majority of Americans know that this is wrong in so many levels. So thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you, Ala.
We're going to leave it. It's going to be published soon. So thank you so much to all of you that is going to watch that are watching right now and the ones that are going to watch it later on. We will keep fighting and we are not giving up.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Ala.
so, so much.
Bye bye.
Bye.